Heyo, it's Nico. Welcome to this how to draw feet tutorial. I hope this video can help you and assist you with your own drawings. So, without further ado, let's get started. So here I've got images of my own feet for reference and to explain things. I think in order to understand feet fully, we have to look at real feet. That's why I'm using photo reference for this, so hopefully I better explain my ideas and things. So from these images I just traced around them, and I've got these. Notice how the top, bottom and left and right are pretty much the same silhouette, just flipped. Knowing this should make it easier to draw. Also note that there is an arc on the side where the big toe is. As you can see, I've put boxes around all the silhouettes so you can better see the relationships and shapes of the silhouette. If I put this layer on, I can better explain. So, when drawing your feet, you should be aware of the following things. First of all, the pinky toe side is straighter than the big toe side that sticks out slightly more diagonally. Notice how there's like a triangle space on this side and it's more straighter on the pinky toe side as it tapers out towards the toes. Okay, so on these middle two, you should notice that they aren't as big, but in the back it's going to appear the toes aren't as big, but that's just because it's in perspective and therefore the back of the foot looks larger than it really is. In actuality, as you can see from the top down view, that the front toes area is wider and bigger than the back. As you can see from the final end silhouette, the foot is relatively long and flat, which I'd recommend to make it longer and flatter in your drawing as opposed to short and fat, because generally when you say someone has a big foot, it generally means the foot is longer as opposed to like taller, like colours. So here I've broken down the foot into 3 separate colour coded parts, each colour being a shape I use to build up a foot. Okay, so here I've broken down the foot into 3 separate colour-coded parts, each colour being a shape I use to build up a foot. As you can see, I build it up from 3 basic shapes. The first shape is the blue cylinder, which represents the leg. It's just a basic cylinder which tapers slightly wider towards the top as the leg gets wider towards the calf muscle. The next is this yellow shape, which is like a cylinder that is wider at the bottom, and as you can see it's cut diagonally in half. You don't have to cut it in half if you want to just keep it simple, but just remember it's another cylinder that gets wider at the bottom because the foot's wider at the bottom. And it represents the heel of the foot. The red one is ramp shaped with a rectangular base, is slightly curved on the top and tapers wider towards the end where the toes are. I should note that this method doesn't include toes at this stage for the sake of simplicity, and also if you're drawing feet in shoes you could just add a curve to the end and it should be convincing enough shape. This page hopefully better explains what I mean by the shapes and how I use them to pose the foot. As you can see, like, I don't draw each shape perfectly, and some of them may be more arced and some of them more flat. Like, it's just something that you develop with practice and things like that. For the sake of feet, I mean, they're not a focal point, so it shouldn't be too bad if it's not exactly perfect. It should still convey what it's trying to do. As you can see in these drawings, I just tried to do some various different angles, perhaps like if the feet was on the ground or if it's in more of an action pose, so you can better see like how it can be applied to your drawings in a more practical sense. The reason I use this method is because it's basic, but it works and allows you to pose the feet quickly and accurately. Since feet are mostly drawn on characters and not as a focal point, I use this method to add some believability to the feet without wasting too much time on the feet. Okay, so at this point I've added two green balls at the ankle and at the ball of the foot as pivot points where the foot can rotate the like slopey bit, and that allows it to make more poses. I've also added a bit of like purpley, just a block in the general shape of what the toes are, which is just a like an arc shape sort of thing. And here you can see I've posed it in the shape of the reference. So you can see how I use the cylinder and the shapes I've made to uh, emulate the reference basically. On this arc, it makes it look as if it's less of a triangle, and on the first photo, the red like slope looks a bit misshapen, but that's just because the arc has made it less of a ramp and more and distorted the shape a little bit, but it is still the same shape, which is a bit clearer on the right reference, where as you can see it's still the same sort of slopey. And then I've got this diagram in green in the middle here to show where the arc side is going to be a bit more indented and a bit more curvy, and then on the other side it's going to be straighter and look more slopey. I've also copied the pose in the profile view so you can see how the pivot points rotate the foot and the shape that it makes. Hope that makes sense. On this page I've done the same thing with the references and shown how my shapes and method can be applied to any sort of pose. Also, I should mention for the placement of the green pivot points and the purple toes, well, the toes is just a purple arc at the end which juts out a bit, and then the ankle goes at the bottom of the leg cylinder, and the ball of the foot goes at the end of the slope on the big toe side. I hope you can just look at these references and get a better understanding. So this page and the last page of photo references are not mine, and the credit is here at the bottom and will also be in the description. The speed paint just shows my process of how I painted the toes. I didn't end up painting them all, I ended up painting a fair few though. But yeah, I just usually start off with a sketch. Some of them were reference, some of them were just from imagination, and then from there I wanted to add grayscale, just to add three different tones to make a more simplified sort of skin. So just with mid-tone, a highlight, and a shadow tone. And then from there I overlaid a skin layer and some other layers to make the skin look a bit more believable, and from there I just painted it on until it was a convincing toe. I put some redness in areas mostly on like the sole of the foot. It's more reddish, helpful, and hopefully you've learned something today that's useful. If you have any comments or questions, just leave them in the description. So yeah, thank you for watching my tutorial on drawing.